innovation they're talking about. They're talking about engineering, they talked about assistive living, they're talking about biomedical engineering, you name it. GDC is sector agnostic. We are able to take any idea that comes in from STEM universities and we help them to navigate through their early process of entrepreneurship and customer discovery. The key learning coming out from all the 6 teams is quite distinctive. Every one of them mentioned that they came with a great product idea. They thought that they had a winner. They'll be able to straight away start the business and customers are queuing up to buy their products. But to their discovery, they completely realized that starting the product is not the great idea and then learned that market is more important. And they have been brutally honest in accepting that this mistake they learned. And they went through a serious catharsis initially after the first week or so. And then they had the courage enough to go back to drawing boards and rebuild their idea to build a robust startup. Indeed, fabulous learning by all these 6 teams. And these 6 teams have come forward to put up a stall outside. And post our break, post lunch, you will have enough time to interact with them, engage with them, to learn more about their ideas and how they plan to take the business forward. Indeed, a wonderful effort by all the 6 teams. They have gone through tremendous amount of learning. And congratulations to you all and best wishes for you to take your idea forward. Next, we move on to a key important address. IIT Madras has been the forefront of innovation, entrepreneurship, and has been in the news. And I'd been traveling to multiple academic institutions and incubators. Everybody keeps asking, what is that you people eat and drink in IIT Madras to make it so big, so popular in terms of your achievements? I've been telling them that it's the leadership and visionary leadership that has been taking the institution to such high levels. And we have in that leading age of visionary leaders, Professor V. Kamakoti, Director of IIT Madras. And I have a great pleasure in welcoming him to address this audience. Just to give a couple of anecdotes about his vision, I was also part of this industrial consultancy and this particular organization sponsored research where I was helping them in commercializing IPs. Professor Kamakoti was the associate dean at this point in time, and we are publishing close to about 125 IPs every year. He came and said that suppose we want to do at least 1 IP per day. 365 IP is my dream. I was wondering, where are we? 125 to 365 is a fantastic jump, but is it possible? But thanks to his vision and drive, IIT Madras is able to cross that number. Today we are 400 plus IPs per year and marching ahead. Second important initiative which he dreamt of is that can we increase the number of startups coming out of IIT Madras staple? Can we look at 100 startups coming out of the entire ecosystem? And that happened in the last financial year. We crossed about 102 startups coming out of last financial year alone. So that clearly shows that the visionary leadership and a purpose-driven team can really achieve magic. And here I am, great pleasure to invite Professor Kamakoti to talk to the audience over here. Professor Kamakoti.
Thank you, friends. I'm very happy that TTJ hall is full. It's always very happy to see a full hall here. Of course, TTJ is our alumni. He's a distinguished alumnus of IIT Madras and probably the most eldest entrepreneur that IIT Madras has produced. So we started this journey several decades before. We have been having multiple entrepreneurs. And some very interesting thing that I used to basically motivate the children here to take up entrepreneurship as a journey. Last year we made around 350 crores of alumni funding. Out of it, 320 crores actually came from entrepreneurs. Right? While earning salary, I don't think we can give anything back to the institute. But with if you really want to give something back to the institute, you must. And deep tech is extremely important here. So one of our, he actually instantly finished his MTech in 1970 when I was 2 years old. And he came back and gave us stocks worth around 230 crores. And if things go well, I'm praying Goddess Lakshmi, when it actually goes IPO, we may close it at 600 crores. Right? And this actually, he is a mechanical engineer aerospace engineer, and he continued to be in the same stream, not switched to a high frequency trading after. So these are two important points I always tell the kids, that deep core, deep tech is extremely important today. Now, fortunately for me as an academician, Operation Sindoor actually has turned out to be a very interesting case study. If you just look at Operation Sindoor, there was precision, lot of precision, thousands of kilometers with 5-meter precision, we were able to specifically hit targets. And that has been very important as a country. We also did a responsible war. We did not want to harm any civilian who is not needling our country. We want to exactly hit those people who are needling our country. And that precision helped. So if you actually very carefully map some of the operations that have happened in Operation Sindoor, it covers multiple domains, at least 6 to 7 engineering disciplines I could actually very easily map. And and all are deep tech innovations. COVID is an excellent example of how bioscience has really come up. It was not just about the vaccine, but also about ventilators, homegrown ventilators, even homegrown masks, face masks, etc. And then we had Twista, one of our startup modular housing, which actually made 3,000 beds within a record of one month or so, right? So where thousands of patients got saved. I think deep core technology, more than AI, ML and computer science, actually is extremely important. And that is what we are focusing at IIT Madras. As Subbu said, I strongly believed that we have around 12,000 students, and we are just looking at 3% of that student to make an idea. Will not 3% of our students get an idea every year? Was the question. And that's where we pitched in very strongly on the Patent Day. We called it PADS, Patent Day scheme. And so last but one financial year, we had 386. Last year we did 4. So if we say 1 year a fluke that we can say, but second year we made it 417. And this year already, ICSR, the second floor here, they had told me that we have crossed more than 1.2 patents a day. We are already 190 plus from April 1 to July. So I think this is something very, very important. Viksit Bharat 2047, as envisaged by our Honorable Prime Minister, must be a patent nation, must be a startup nation. Friends, if you just look at your mobile phone, 80,000 rupees you pay for your iPhone 6 or whatever, 7, 8, 9. And more than 20,000 rupees of that, around 20% of it goes as royalty. And that royalty goes because there are standard essential patents. You make that patent and make it as a part of the standard, do nothing, sit at your office, you churn out money. So there is the importance of evolving standards in the country and having our patent inside that. Okay. So this is the next trend. So now we are doing deep tech patents. These patents are not very simple ones. No, it's not just, see, there was a company which actually patented double click in the mouse. We don't do such nonsense, okay? We do really big sense here, okay? None of us here in this hall. And these patents are also giving us societal benefits. For example, last week in the same auditorium, we unveiled this YD, which is a lightweight wheelchair. Today, wheelchair has these problems, right? One, it is 20 kg in weight. The moment you sit on it, you feel like you are a patient, and it's so large in size that you can't enter small washrooms, etc. So what we have done is actually a marvel between metallurgy and mechanical engineering and engineering design. We got a carbon fiber plus aluminum composite and reduced the weight from 20 kgs to 8.5 kgs. That's the biggest advantage there. And that whole chair looks so nice that I want to sit and go, right? Though I have 2 legs here, but I want to really sit and go. It's so nice, and you can connect it to your scooter, and it can be attached. It's something that I have pride, and it's so small in size that it can enter any washrooms, etc. More than that, The same thing if I import, these chairs are available across the world, not in India. If I import, it is 2,40,000 rupees. The cost of this with some reasonable profit is 75,000 rupees. So this is the cost reduction that we bought. The same thing now we have to do in multiple things. And first hit would be medical technologies. Second hit should be sustainability. Of course, medicine comes as SDG 3, I think, where you have to give quality, affordable, accessible healthcare for all. But then I'm very happy to see the previous IIT Madras team now presenting about this biodegradable one-time use plastic. So we have a lot of commitments to the Sustainable Development Goal, and we have to start looking at it. So I'm very happy. After these patents, we thought, what next? And that point, we said, okay, these patents cannot be just like dolls in a shop, right? So we need to make money. We made social sense. One big big change I see, big difference I see from the other developed world and India. You go to my kid at C5. It is run 24/7, the Center for Innovation. I suggest that all of you take some time off to go and see the Center for Innovation. It's run by the student, for the student, to the student, everything there. When I go night 9 or 10, when I go home late, I just want to energize myself, so I go there. And all these kids start saying, why are you here? So they, right? So it's completely run by them. And see, the main thing that we see here is, if you go and ask a developed country, they ask about revenue, product, they talk everything about Lakshmi. When we go to our startup, go to any of our children here, they start about social benefit. What will happen to the startup? What will happen to the society? How will I make the life easy for people to live through my product? I think that's the fundamental difference which every Bharat startup has. And I think that is what is going to take our country. I believe that the product nation, the standards nation, the patent nation that we are going to see in 2047, this is going to be the unique distinguishing factor. Friends, we are now opening up our incubation cell. This year we had 103 startups that we had incubated. More than 50% are from outside. So our motto today is IITM for all. We are a taxpayers, we are an institution run by taxpayers' money, and we are committed to the entire nations. So in Tamil we say Anaivarukkum IIT Madras. So we have our courses open. We have 38,000 plus in our BS online, and many of those students are incubating startups, right? So with this current admission, I have another folium sensing guy coming here. Welcome. So 42,000, 43,000 students will be there. And friends, more than 6,000 of them are below poverty line. 1 lakh per annum, less than 1 lakh per annum family income. And this is how we are now spreading our education. And the same thing we want to do for startups. So we welcome any startup across India who wants to come and take benefit out of us. We have institutionalized, I must say, I'm very proud to tell you that we have institutionalized the way a startup should be grown. We have an entrepreneurship cell. You go with an idea, they will try to make a patent out of it. With the MVP, idea for an MVP. We have some of the best AI-enabled patent search engines in IIT. So this will tell you, it will compare with other patents across the world and tell you where we stand. Then we have the Center for Innovation, Sudha Shankar Block. It's very well funded. And then above that there is Nirman, which is, sorry. So we have Nirman, which is a pre-incubator. And there are many stages there. There is LKG, UKG, like that. We have Pratham and other things. And then after Nirman, we have the Mother Incubation Cell of IIT Madras. And we have a lot of domain-specific incubators. And again, thanks to DST, Pramod is here representing DST. We have the Pravartak, which is for the cyber physical system, completely funded by DST. DST has invested around 170 crores. We also got the last installment, Pramod. So 170 crores for that, and we are growing now. The incubator itself now has made more than 450 crores. And it's a very nice lubrication funding that DST has provided. The next one is on, we have Samgya C.IIT Madras, Samgya Technology. It's again the National Quantum Mission. and again funded by DST. We have already received 100 crores there. We are now, last year we found 2 quantum companies coming up in quantum communication. We have 4 such hubs in the country, spread across metrology, quantum communication, quantum computing, and quantum materials. And I think that is also growing. So these are 2 DST major initiatives where, again, thank you very much for this. Please convey to Abhay my heartfelt thanks for that. And then we have a fintech incubator. We are starting a sustainability incubator. Friends, we are taking 100 acres plot at Auroville, and that will be a sustainability campus where we are going to work on all the sustainable goals, development goals 1 to 17. Then we have a bio incubator, we have a rural technology business incubator, fintech incubator that we are going to start. So all these incubators and health technology, innovation center. So very domain specific incubators which nurtures, which gives you platform. And what do we do as a part of incubation? It's not just we help you make a website, follow all the MCA rules, which is again very lot of rules, and then see your finances, etc. Introduce you to investors. Of course, we have very good investors here. I hope you go back giving more money to some of these startups. But very importantly, we create platforms that can be used by these to accelerate their product development, and that is very, very important. So, for example, in the area of semiconductors, in Pravartak, we have set up a complete CAD tool repository and a complete IP repository. IPs can be, we have negotiated with some of the IP vendors to give the IPs for these startups at 30% of the original cost, 70% discount. And the tools are now made available to them at a return of equity, right? Equity, you don't spend money. There will be no cash flow, right? And then we also have given a lot of manpower support. Just to hire a verification engineer at semiconductors is going to cost you several lakhs of rupees. So we have now got that in place. So this type of support we extend, and we see the startups immediately growing. This acceleration is possible, and that's also a role of an incubator. So we are redefining what an incubator must do in terms of technical support, and we leverage the complete knowledge base that IIT Madras has through their faculty to nurture this and take it forward. So we are very confident that this 100 startup shatam that we started, 100 startups this year, will go to 200, 300, 500. I'm sure we will go. And we also very happy that one of our incubator startup guys who are running scooters in our campus here, they became IPO. The first IPO we saw after 13 years. But by 2032, my statistics, I've been very successful with numbers. We said patent a day, it's going more than that. Startup Shatam it is. So I just want to make this. By 2032, we'll have 1,000 startups if things go. This year also we are already crossed 75. I think we'll grow much more than 100 this financial year. 1,000 startups we have. I think one IPO a month is not a distant dream. I think we must start working at it, and we must push for it. These are all lofty goals. When myself and Subbu used to always, these are all lofty goals. I don't know whether it will be achieved. I said, let us start with a joke and let it become a serious joke and then a reality. I think it's happening, and let us do this. So thank you very much, and keep coming here. IIT Madras is open, and we will try to see how we build this nation. We want more employers than employees. Yesterday in the orientation for my young children, BTechs, I said, I don't want IIT Madras students to seek a job. They should give a job. I think let us go in that direction. Thank you very much.
Professor Komagati, thank you so much for your address. As I mentioned earlier, based on my several feedbacks in multiple academic institutions, I've been asking what is that's going great. I think it's setting up a vision by the leaders and then creating that favorable environment for the intellect to prosper. That is very, very clearly seen in this institution where the adequate environment has been created, and you see the intellect really evolving and achieving bigger things in their life. I think that as a leader, I think creating this environment becomes extremely important to ensure that the talent in the country, which is quite deep, and I was very much impressed when I went travel to IIT Patna, to IISER Bhopal, these type of locations, the knowledge capital is fabulous, and the youngsters are able to think much more bigger and then take the challenge to take their idea forward. I think as a country, we are in a great shape as far as the intellectual capital is concerned. Only required is providing the adequate environment for these things to blossom. Thank you very much, Professor Kamakati, for your time and address to this audience. We take a break now, but I would like to request Professor Kamakati to stay back for a few more minutes to inaugurate our exhibition. We have the teams who presented early in the morning have put up a stalls over here. There will be a formal inauguration followed by a tea break. I request all of you to come back in 15 minutes time as we have more interesting sessions post the break. Thank you.
From plastics. All the best. very good. Sir, little more, sir, please, sir.
So we are now repurposing a drug which is being used for liver fibrosis for topical application. So this probably I think that the patients will complete their treatment on time, thereby leading to better survival rate for the patients also. Because anything the entire radiation of business. So the entire all the cancers same radiation. We have still not been given exam. We have our own information but we have still not been given. We thought we will first get a proper founding team and then we
We'll take a minute or two to get some more people back into the auditorium. Please quickly settle down the seats. Well, good afternoon and welcome back to the sessions now. Please settle down quickly so that we can start the next session. So I have a great pleasure to invite Dr. Pramod Shankar from Department of Science and Technology. He is a scientist D associated with Nidhi Prayas and Nidhi AAR programs with the DST. He has been with the DST for more than a decade now, 12 plus years. He has been engaged with many programs of DST. He holds a PhD from IIT Delhi in the area of wearable electronics. And I remember about more than a year back when we had an opportunity to host Dr. Pramod to our office, the idea of DST collaborating with the GDC to create the I-NCUBATE program started at that point in time. And subsequently, we had an opportunity to present what we can do to the Secretary DST in their office in Delhi. I'm quite happy to say that things have moved quite very well, and we are well into the fourth cohort, and we'll be moving many cohorts, and you have seen the impact of the team's learning going through our cohorts. And I have a great pleasure to invite Dr. Pramod to share his thoughts from the DSP perspective. Dr. Pramod, welcome him with a round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Kamagodi sir, who inaugurate conference, and Raghutama Rao sir and Professor Krishna Bala Subramaniam. It is an honor to be here today in the special seminar celebrating the remarkable journey of DST-GDC I-NCUBATE program. I convey my sincere thanks and congratulations to all the participants, mentors and GDC team for successfully completing the 4 transformative cohorts of these pioneering initiatives. At the time when the deep tech startups are increasingly recognized as the engines of India's science-led economic growth, the program like DST-GDC I-NCUBATE program is most important and a fundamental role in bridging the gap between the academic research and market-ready innovations. So when we start this program, when we discuss this program, actually we know that evidence-based research, we have had a lot of evidence-based research in scientific research, R&D. Now the concept was very new when Professor Krishna told us that evidence-based market-driven entrepreneurship. Then we have a lot of brainstorming sessions, and Secretary DST as suggested, we had a brainstorming meeting, and then we designed this program. And we, for last 8 weeks, I think the duration is 8 weeks. So this is not just launching the startup, it is changing the mindset. Over 8 intensive weeks, each team that participate in this program undergoes critical self-evaluation and customer validation. And then when we discuss this program, the critical self-evaluation and validation, that part we were having some doubts, but then I think I have again thanked to GDC team. They have formulated the program in such a way, the excellent presentation we have seen from the startups, and it has become a national platform for the deep tech startups to find the customer discovery or validation. And from there, I mean, it's like a listening, changing. The startups start listening from GDC program and they change their mindset. What they initially thought it is their solution for the market or whatever their product is the need of market or society, they slowly start changing. And it's a wonderful program. And from the Department of Science and Technology, we always support this kind of program. It's not end of this GDC program for the participants. We are just starting for building this ecosystem. And Department of Science and Technology have many funding programs. You can follow it up with our schemes, where it is Nidhi Prayas, seed funding, or fellowship, EIR fellowship for individual innovators or students. So this is just a beginning of our deep tech journey. And the word itself, deep tech itself, has a lot of complications. So don't leave your idea. Even if there is a need of change, be very patient and success will be with you. And Government of India has now a lot of schemes for deep techs. Let's explore together with GDC team. And thank you so much. And I don't want to take much time. And we always will be there to support S&D-based startups from the Department of Science and Technology. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for designing a smart program. And we look forward for the next rounds of cohort and more customer discovery exercise. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod. I think DST has been a great support for deep tech science-based startups to evolve. We really appreciate the type of enabling environment DST has been providing. I'm sure in the years to come by, we'll see more and more science-based graduates looking at entrepreneurship as a career rather than looking for a job, as mentioned by Professor Kamakoti a little earlier. We now have the chief guest address for the day. We have with us Mr. Ramesh Mangaleshwaran, who is currently an adjunct professor of practice at Desai Sethi School of Entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay. He is also an emeritus partner at McKinsey and Company. Ramesh has had an illustrious career in the academics from undergrad from IIT Bombay, then an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and served for more than 3 decades with McKinsey India in multiple verticals. He created the Chennai and Bangalore offices of McKinsey. He continues to advise many organizations as member of the board. We're indeed extremely fortunate to have him today to address the audience. May I request all of you to put your hands to welcome Mr. Ramesh Mangaleshwaran to give his keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me. I was wondering why I was invited. Finally, I figured that Raghu ran out of somebody and then decided to call me a week ago. But that's okay. You can always do these for good friends. But let me try and say a few things that I've been reflecting on. This is a topic of great interest to me, entrepreneurship, particularly tech-backed entrepreneurship. Like Subbu mentioned, I spent 30 years in McKinsey, so I've seen life from the other side, if you will. I've seen life from the large corporate side, and therefore, a lot of what I'm doing in my post-McKinsey life, which is now in its 3rd year, is I'm trying to see life from 2 other lenses that I hadn't seen before. That of an academic institution, and I'm involved in both the academic institutions that I'm an alma mater of, IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad, and entrepreneurship. So I would like to talk about 3 things. If any of you have interacted with McKinsey, we always say things in 3s. That's a occupational hazard that we all have. First is, there can't be a better time than now. Okay, there can't be a better time than now, because it's a little bit like, I had a friend in LA. I said, why do you guys have forest fires? He says, too many things happen at the same time that causes a forest fire in LA. Okay, one is we've had a cold winter that results in a lot of dew. Then we've had a dry spring. Then we have lots of winds, and then someone sets off a spark. Okay, and then all of the city. So I'm just saying that there can't be a better time than now, because I'm seeing lots of things happening together. First and foremost is India's time has come, okay? No matter what you read, no matter what leaning you have, countries go through this phase only once in their lifetime. It's a little bit like growing up spurt, okay? This happened with Britain when the Industrial Revolution happened. It happened with Germany, you would argue, between the wars. It happened with Japan just after the war. It happened with Korea in the 70s. It happened with China in the 80s. And this is just, there will be a time in a country's evolution when its time comes. So India's time has come, okay? I mean, we don't know when we'll get there. We don't know whether we'll get to 40 trillion or we'll get to 30 trillion, but the direction of travel is clear. And the direction of travel is not 3.5% growth, okay? 3.5%, we were all, by the school that I went to and all, we were made to believe that 3.5% growth is a mathematically calculated number for countries like India, okay? And we are now at a 5-6% growth. And that's important, by the way. A rising tide lifts all boats. So, first of all, there can't be a more conducive macroeconomic context than now. And this is not for now, it is for the next, I would argue, for the next 15, 20 years. So this generation of people who are sitting in the room are going to benefit from it, just as how the Americans benefited in the 2000s. We are here to benefit. Second is, I think that the nature of academic institutions is shifting. I'm a product of IIT. I kept saying that in the 80s, academic institutions had only one product, that was graduates, okay? And IITs were in the business of creating these products for the international market, not for the local market. So you've seen all this criticism of IIT engineers saying they all, the jokes we heard was that on the day they join IIT, their minds go to the US. 4 years later, the body follows. All of that was how it was in the 80s and 90s. So the first phase of academic institutions was purely about creating people for the job market. The second phase of academic institutions overlaid research on it. So there was, okay, we are doing it. They scaled up PhD programs. The year I finished IIT, there were 20 people who finished PhD. Last year, IIT Bombay graduated 300 PhDs. So this scaled up research, faculty got more driven by research. And I think our academic institutions are getting to a third phase now, which is translation. So they moved from academics to academics plus research, to academics plus research to translation. And the translation journey begins where the research journey ends. The research journey ends with sort of publishing a paper, going to a good conference, all of that. But that's really where the translation journey begins. And we've been hearing a lot today about translation. I think the GDC folks make it very clear that throw away the product, don't think it's the product, start with the market, all of that. So I think and academic institutions matter, okay? Everyone talks about Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley at the end of the day happened there, not because of the good weather in California, but because Stanford and Berkeley existed. Everyone talks about the genomic valley around Boston. It happened there because MIT existed. Everyone talks about how Israel, a country that has enough issues, is an innovator because of Tel Aviv University. People don't talk that much about Chinese universities, but China has been pursuing a breakthrough research program for three decades now. So academic institutions actually play a very, very important role in the center of this ecosystem. And so that's the second thing, that academic institutions have come of age. Third is, I think government policy is very supportive. I think we've just seen what DST is doing. We're reading about the ANRF, how money is going to be deployed. And there's a lot of focus on actually bringing these three constituents together. Bringing academic institutions, bringing industry, bringing government together to foster this kind of research. And I think Professor Kamakoti mentioned this in passing, but I want to amplify it. We cannot be a country of job seekers. We have to be a country of job creators. Not because it's a good thing to say, okay, but just because there are no jobs going around. This country is going to put out 1 million people into the job market every month for the next 100 months at least. Nothing else. This is pure demographics, just how this is shifting. Where are 100 million jobs? If everyone typed up their CV and put it on Naukri.com, their server will crash because there are no jobs. There are no jobs of the scale that we are talking about. So we have to create a country of job creators, not of job seekers. That is challenge number one that I would like to tell everyone in the group. Two is, I think the nature of innovation is shifting, and I can see Visesh from Special here. Gone are the days where we could take a good Western idea and copy it. And I'm not naming startups on purpose because who knows what is being recorded, but we've gone through a phase where well-funded startups were basically taking products from the West and putting an Indian wrapper on it. I don't think that's, maybe there's a need for it in the country, but that's not the only thing that the country needs. We've gone through a phase, and we are living through that phase, and this one I am quite vocal, I can be quoted on it, of creating companies for needs that are not real needs. I always wonder, do you need sugar in 18 minutes in your house? Is that a burning need? That if sugar doesn't come in 15 minutes, if shampoo doesn't come in 18 minutes, something will go away. But we've created a generation of startups that are putting some supply chain. So we have to, in a way, shift innovation to solving real problems. We have to, Professor Kamakoti mentioned a startup. I, by the way, am a mentor to that startup that is making the world's lightest weight wheelchair. We need someone who is not making wheelchairs of 20 kilos, but is making wheelchairs of 8 kilos, okay? We need the Agnikools of the world. We need the ImmunoActs of the world, which is trying to reduce the cost of CAR-T technology, which is, by the way, an important therapy for cancer, to 1/10 of it. So we need people who are solving real problems. So that's a little bit of, I look at all this and say, wow, can I be reborn and doing something here? Because the time is right. Time is right for all of you to do what you're doing. Then I want to demystify entrepreneurship. Okay, the entrepreneurship is as poorly understood a word as anything else. And we've heard many definitions of it. Since I teach entrepreneurship, I have my own definition of it. So my definition of entrepreneurship is that it's really about three things. Okay, first is, it is about surfacing an unmet customer need. And I use these words very carefully, okay? It is about surfacing, okay? Meaning that customer need is there. It is lying below the surface. It is unmet. So what is the process? And the little I've learned is GDC seems to have a very good technology in inverted commas, to surface the unmet customer need. Is the first part of it. It is the most important part of it. Eventually all enterprises exist to service a customer. That is the reason they exist. And to match that customer need with your unique ability to serve it. Unique ability to serve it, meaning anyone can serve an unmet customer need. What is unique about your ability? Is it the IP? It can't be capital, by the way. Capital is absolute commodity. Okay, capital is commodity. Color of money is the same. It can never be a differentiator. It could be a team, but then it has to be something really deep about a team. So, surfacing an unmet customer need and matching it with your unique ability to serve to create all-round value. We didn't discuss creating all-round value enough today. But creating all-round value starts with creating value for the customer. It moves to creating value for the investor, to value for society, to value for employees. And by the way, between my IIT and IIM, I was lucky to be an employee of the Tata Group. I spent 2 years in Jamshedpur as an engineer. And the founder of the Tata Group talked about it 100 years ago. He said, we exist to serve all needs. We don't exist to serve one need. We are here to service the customer, create value for the customer, create value for society, create value for employees, and create value for investors. I put investors last in that list, okay? Because all of that is important. So where am I in my thinking? I'm saying this is a great opportunity, wonderful opportunity, because India's time has come. India needs entrepreneurs. India needs tech-based entrepreneurs. And government is here to help. Academic institutions have that maturity to help. Large corporates have. So then if I were sitting in this room and saying, what did I learn? I have my own formula on what makes a successful enterprise, okay? And I'll build on a little bit of what I heard today. In my opinion, successful enterprise needs at least 5 things. At least 5, because I don't know if there are more than 5. First is there has to be the innovator or the IP, okay? That is the starting point of it, and we discussed a lot of it. But that is only the first thing. Second is it needs a complementary team. And I can't emphasize the word complementary enough. Okay? And with all respect to academicians in the room, the best co-founder is not your PhD student who finished last year, okay? Because the PhD student who finished last year will think like you, okay? He's in the same bucket as the first bucket, which is the technical. And there is empirical evidence to say that teams win, not individuals. So you need to have in your team complementary skills. The skill that I would say that you need, if you're a technical innovator, is you need someone who comes with market skills, someone who can come backward from the market. I was just discussing with Kunal, and we were saying IMA has an incubator, IIT Madras has an incubator, and the brief conversation we were having is, can they work together? Because they come at it from two different angles. You need a complementary skill. Third is, you need a mentor. Now again, mentor is a often used and poorly understood word according to me. Mentor is, one thing I've learned about mentor is mentor should not give answers, okay? Mentor should only ask questions, okay? But I have a problem with that also. If a mentor only asks questions and never gives answers, then that person is, at some point in time you have to intervene and say, boss, this person is stuck now. It's okay to give an answer, okay? You can't keep saying only questions, only questions. Mentor has to open networks, okay? Mentor has to open networks. And three is, mentorship has to be measured. Even if it is difficult, there is too much unevenness in mentoring. Okay, there is too much unevenness in mentoring because, listen, I was a consultant, okay, and there is a very rude joke about consultants, okay. Those who cannot do anything become consultants, okay. Now, lot of people are saying that about mentoring also. After you retired, after you finish everything, abhi kya karta hai? Mentoring karta hai. Arey bhai, there has to be some quality standard for mentoring. There has to be some consistency in mentoring. Mentoring cannot be only about asking questions, okay. It has to once in a while be about also stepping in, being in the same boat as the team. So that's the third requirement for entrepreneurship for me. The fourth is, I think there's a need for a scale-up partner. 0 to 1 journey is different from 1 to 10 journey, is different from 10 to 100 journeys, by definition. So when I am in the 0 to 1 phase, or when I am in the 1 to 10 phase, do I even have a visualization? Do I even have a visualization of who can my 10 to 100 partner be? And the 10 to 100 partner is very different from the 0 to 1 partner and the 1 to 10 partner. And guess what? They don't come overnight. They exist. They are born, they exist today. Can you start having, like how you have customer discovery conversation, can you start to have discussions with potential scale-up partners? Not to do a deal, but to learn. To learn that making product in the thousands is different from making product in the hundreds, is different from making product in the tens, is different from making a prototype, okay? And can you even have an appreciation of it? And as I have been looking at companies that don't scale up, it is because this need for a scale-up partner and need for someone who can open your eyes to scale up has to be introduced fairly early in the enterprise development process, okay? And finally, you need a safety net, okay? One part of the safety net is money. There are many other parts of the safety net, okay? Safety net is, in a circus, the person who walks on the tightrope is able to walk on the tightrope because there is the confidence that if something goes wrong, there's a net below me. So the safety net is a psychological safety net. It's a financial safety net. It is a network. A little bit of the role can be played by mentor, but it is more than that. So this is, I'm not saying I'm an expert, okay? As you all know, I was a consultant for 30 years. This is my new me. I'm trying to learn this, but I'm beginning to formulate my own little theory on how does tech-backed entrepreneurship formulate. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is, okay? Me and 2 other friends are running a program called Titanium at IIT Bombay, where we are trying to do this. In 1 year of Titanium, we've onboarded 10 teams, all starting with a faculty member, but moving through the phases. And so maybe in a few years, we'll have something to report. But congratulations to all of you. Listening to your presentations was wonderful. And I will only summarize by saying there can be no better time than now to be in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. There's no better time than now. Seems to be ringing pretty strongly in my ears. Ramesh mentioned many things in his speech. He started with research, how academic institutions have moved from undergrad to research focus. He talked about entrepreneurship, talked about creating jobs, talked about creating products which are not incremental improvements to Western products, but genuinely Indian products to solve Indian problems. It talks about complementarity in teams. I think we talked many things, and all of them made solid sense to all of us here. And only one point I want to add to expand to what Ramesh mentioned is about research. Knowledge is created in research institutions, and when we are all graduates from this great institute way back in the 80s, it used to be primarily undergrad and hardly any research used to be done except for the basic sciences. I think over the period of time in the past 3 to 4 decades, we could see a dramatic shift in some of the institutions becoming more research focused than undergrad focused. Knowledge gets created over here. If you look at the United States in the 60s, 70s, 80s was the knowledge country. They used to create so much of research in their universities, which ultimately led to technologies, products, and solutions to society. And top 10 ranked universities globally used to be Americans, by and large dominating. Look about 2 decades back, Chinese took over, and they are pushing the boundaries in terms of knowledge in multiple areas, and in fact giving a run for the money to United States. You could see that in their publications, could see there in IPs, could see there in their universities being ranked in the top 10. I think time has come for India to sort of leapfrog in that framework by focusing on research, not staying at research, not staying at publications, but moving the bar further towards building a solution which genuinely the country needs towards meeting our own Atmanirbhar requirements. Indeed, inspiring talk by you, Ramesh. Thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate your thoughts. Big round of applause to him, please. We move on to the next agenda in our program. It's a very interesting panel discussion is coming up now. The panel discussion is going to talk in terms of innovation in the country, innovation or deep tech innovation with the talent, technology, and trust. That's going to be the topic where 3 interesting people are going to talk, and Raghutam Rao, my colleague, is going to moderate the program. I request Raghu to occupy the chair in the dais, please. Apart from him, we have Mr. Kunal Upadhyay of IMA Ventures. We also have Mr. Visesh Rajaram, especially, and Professor Satyanarayan Chakravarti, who is joining us through virtual platform. Welcome, gentlemen, to the stage, and over to you, Raghu, to start the panel. Thank you.
Am I audible? Yeah. Satya, can you hear us?
I can hear you. What about me?
Yes, you are audible, and you are large on our screens. Very good.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I'm sorry we are running a bit late, and I thank you for accommodating us. We will appreciate your time commitments as well. So good afternoon to all of you. I apologize for being late. I think the enthusiasm of the teams in the morning just overran a little bit. What we will do here in this panel, where I will very briefly introduce the panelists so that you understand where they come from, and then we will get into the question of, what does it take to create deep tech startups. You've heard, you've heard from the startups, you've heard from our director, you've heard from Professor Krishnan, you've heard from Ramesh some time back, and from Dr. Pramod as well. But I think let's hear it from people in the trenches. Right, so we have, just to introduce, we have Professor Satya Chakravarti on video. He couldn't be here today with us. Thank you, Satya, for accommodating. He's in Mumbai attending some important event. Professor Satya Chakravarti is a professor of aerospace engineering from IIT Madras and from Georgia Tech. Came back, became a prof, started teaching. Some time back, I think he also was running one of the most important labs in IIT and the country, the National Center for Combustion and Research, and he is also bitten by the by the startup bug. He has helmed, germinated, and created several startups, and we'll push him through a little bit on that. So thank you, Satya, for being here. I would also like to introduce the gentleman to my extreme left here, Mr. Kunal Upadhyay. Kunal is an alum from IIT M and from IIM Ahmedabad. He is told me today morning that he stopped growing at 35, and he's been recognized by Economic Times for one of the most promising managers under 40, right? So he's always under 40 now. Okay, and he set up and led, India-based funds, basically in deep tech. He's a co-founder at IMA Ventures. It started as another entity, as an incubator a few years back, now been rebranded as IMA Ventures. And it's one of the foremost incubators and I guess a catalyst in the deep tech, climate tech, health tech, and all kinds of tech. So we really can't have someone who spans incubation, investment, venture capital, coming here. Thank you, Kunal. We also have, to my immediate left, Mr. Vishesh Rajaram. He told me once, I'm not a tech guy, but he has a unique combination of being a chartered accountant, right, and an MBA. And he has worked in industry as a banker, as a venture capitalist, right, and as a consultant as well. So he's kind of rolled all the technologies in, and he is, and I'm going to also ask him this question, how did he get into the riskiest end of venture capital, which is deep tech startups? He's a managing partner in Speciale Invest, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which specializes in early seed stage investments for deep tech startups. If you actually go to their website and see, you'll see a bevy of startups, some of whom are homegrown here, but fantastic nose for picking up technology and entrepreneurship combined. So welcome Vishesh to this, right? So the way we will run this is, we will have some questions in common, but we'll have questions for different people at different times. But the theme is always going to be the same. GDC works at the very early end of potential deep tech startups, where you have only science, you have a lab, you have a prof, you have wannabe entrepreneurs, right? Or reluctant entrepreneurs. As Ramesh said, the best guy is not doing the research. So that's the combination that GDC works in. That's the combination from which 4,000 STEM institutions in this country have to create the deep tech startups. You also have the CSIR labs and all of those, but pretty much we're talking of the same raw material. We are talking of very heavy tech, very heavy bias and accent towards science and technology, and very little orientation towards markets and customers, right? So my first question, I'm going to ask Satya. I'm going to be a little biased towards Satya because I know he is remote and has some disadvantage, and he has some pressures of time. So Satya, if I can start off by asking you, what do academic STEM faculty and researchers, this is right up your alley, probably even poking at you, right? What do academic STEM faculty and researchers often overlook, when transiting to startup thinking? If you have to describe what early traction looks like for a deep tech startup in the lab, how would you say it from your personal experience and from the larger experience of your colleagues?
Right. Thanks so much. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to basically take a leaf out of the lessons that I learned at I-NCUBATE. I belong to the second cohort. Until then, I was quote unquote the richest funded faculty in the world on combustion. I think I've had that validated by lots of my colleagues from around the world. And the notion for research that is very capital intensive is that somebody has to fund it, which means that if we were to build rockets or build planes or any of those kinds of things, the first thing that we actually look for is who is going to fund it. And when I got to the I-NCUBATE program, I was extremely disappointed through that entire program because nobody actually told me who is going to fund me. But it was much later, and I'm a little bit slow on the uptake. It was much later I understood what the I-NCUBATE program was all about, and that's what I'm going to answer your question on, that academics lack, right? There is the customer focus. So it's one thing to actually be able to develop some technology in the lab. Many times actually we focus on the science, the publication aspect of it and all those things. And that's a little bit different from actually developing a technology from the science itself. Because science can be done and published and all those things, but technology, you have to actually make something to work and with a certain goal. And that is still different from actually packaging the technology into your product. And finally, that is still not done. You have to actually see if this product actually has a market. And most of the time, academics are obviously married to the science and maybe the technology. They don't know how to actually package the technology into a product at all, because there are lots of things that have to come together for making the product that sort of envelopes the core technology. But they have absolutely no clue, or they don't want to talk about, they don't want to think about what the market is. It could be partly academic ego, right, which is what we call as Vidyagarvam, right? That is to say, hey, I'm here, the academic, I've actually brought this technology down to earth. It is for people to actually lap it up. I'm like, sorry, that doesn't happen exactly. You have to find a market for it. You have to find customers for it. You have to be solving a problem for a customer, instead of actually looking at your solution as the hammer that is looking at everything as a nail, sort of thing. And that's what I learned from the I-NCUBATE program. In hindsight, after going through the program and getting disappointed that nobody was actually telling me how to get the funds. If we were to do what the I-NCUBATE program tells us, which is to actually be customer focused right from day one, I think the investor will automatically happen. And that comes as a next step instead of the first step. And then you will actually see the Visheshas of the world pop out from nowhere. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I was actually talking to one of my former students who drove all the way to talk to me about setting up a small modular reactor, which is a nuclear reactor. SMRs are kind of like nuclear reactors. And he was interested in setting up a nuclear reactor. And I was asking the question, who's your customer, blah, 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 every question that is I-NCUBATE does. And then I was telling him, go take the I-NCUBATE program one more time. I've done this like about nearly 10 to 15 times to anybody who comes and tells me about this. And at the end of which, he was asking me, who will fund? I said, you will find out once you actually find out your customers. So this is really the key point about academics having to, turn entrepreneurs. They just don't think about customers at all, maybe until when the product is out or whatever it is, and it may be a bit too late to pivot at that time and all that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to take a cue on that and jump to Vishesh. You said that if you do find out who your customer, if academics do find out who your customers are, then investors come searching for you. So I'm going to ask you as an investor, Vishesh, when you meet technical founders, what tells you that they have done their homework, particularly in deep tech?
I think, there's two kinds of homework.
This may not be on.
So I think homework is a broad term. What you want to basically get conviction on is this person sort of ready to go the long road of building a company, right? And most of them are extremely successful. Case in point, Dr. Satya. Are they ready to slog it out and let go of all the frills or all the benefits of life that they've had to go build a company? And that really means how long have they spent in validating and understanding the science, understanding the technology, and understanding the customer. But we're very fortunate that we're partners with Dr. Satya and E-Plane, but I think it took us a good 6 to 9 months from when we first met to when we got. Not that Dr. Satya does not know aerospace engineering or does not know how to build the best plane. We were wanting to make sure that this is the only thing he's going to do for most of his life, of course, other than supporting entrepreneurs.
I hope the entrepreneurs here are listening, right? You have an investor saying something very, very, very profound.
And I think you have to think about building a business, and
I think you need to speak into the mic.
I think investors and investment is glorified way too much, and I'm very delighted to know that GDC doesn't talk about investors in a demo day to investors, because that should come last. If you are building a meaningful business and you're talking to customers, and of course there will be a gestation period between what customers want and what you need to build, but as long as you figured out that path, I'm sure money will find its way to you. And I'm glad that GDC does that, and it's no different with what Dr. Satya's journey has been.
Great. I think you need to switch that off. Yeah. So Kunal has the unique advantage of being both running an incubator as well as being an investor, right? So Kunal, how does it let me ask you from an incubator's perspective. What do you look for in early stage? Because Here, every professor, every faculty, every researcher thinks, I automatically go to the incubator. Likewise in other areas. And probably people, some of them probably have that right. But what does an incubator really look for?
So again, I mean, different incubators would look at their value proposition differently and therefore would want to come and engage with the startup at a different phase of their journey. But given the fact that most incubators are operating at the earliest stage of a startup's life cycle when the risks are the highest, there's no clear definition of the product very often as well. The two things that stand out for me as an incubator person is one, the customer obsession, customer centricity, focus on identifying the customer's pain point that everyone has been talking about. But equally importantly, what I have come around to realize over the last few years that I've been in this trade is that there's something called the founder market fit that not everyone talks about. I mean, everyone has been today going around talking about the product market fit, which is very relevant for the VCs, for the investors. But at an incubation stage, what is equally important as customer centricity and getting a grip of what the market wants is the founder market fit, which is the founder has spent enormous amount of time trying to get a pulse of the customer, and the founder is also the right person for this market. And now we've seen enough instances where fantastic founders are pursuing opportunities that they are not meant to pursue. I mean, they may not have the skill set, and I mean, a very simple case in point could be trying to sell something to the government. Not everyone may be well equipped to do that. Or you may be pursuing something which requires significant knowledge of a certain sector for you to be able to make inroads, but the entrepreneur doesn't have that. So at the earliest stages, that becomes critical lens that we are going to use for looking at an enterprise.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on this founder market fit and more on how can prospective founders, which is really the audience, one of the audience that we are talking to here today, how do they become aware of this? In fact, we find most of them are not even aware of this, right? And how should they think about it?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to know the pulse of the market is to really be talking to the customers, getting a good feel for what the customer is seeking. While you are doing that, and that's a part of the GDC program anyways, while you are talking to the customer, you would very quickly start seeing whether the skill set that you have as an individual or as a group of co-founders who are pursuing a given idea, whether you have what it takes to actually convince the customer. Now, the single most important skill set that I have seen that an entrepreneur needs to have, for example, is the ability to sell. If your core team doesn't have the ability to sell, that's something that you need to build upfront. And selling is not about just selling the product. The selling is also equally about selling it to investors, selling it to incubators, selling it to policymakers that something like this needs to be done. Very quickly, in 5 or 10 customer conversations, you would figure out what does this industry really require. And that's when you would spend enormous amount of time not just building that understanding deep expertise of a particular industry to again be able to communicate with folks in that industry better, but equally importantly know the skill set. Sometimes that skill set would be really about you going and able to actually talk about policies. I mean, this is very relevant in the context of, let's say, some of you trying to build defense related startups. If you don't have the understanding of the policies, if you don't have an understanding of the regulatory framework, you wouldn't be able to make much of an inroad into that. So each problem is going to have a different set of requirements from a founder standpoint, which only the founder would be able to figure out talking to the customers. But so it's not a science, there's no real answer to it, but it's a craft. You need to really, for each particular startup that you are trying to build, you'll need to figure out iteratively, you will need to practice the craft and then be able to bring the relevant people together and make a dent on the market.
So there is no formula, heuristics, framework for this?
You know,
Pure art.
building a startup is not a science, it is a craft.
It's an art.
Not even an art, it's a craft.
It's a craft. A craft can be learned.
Yeah, craft can be learned. That's what you guys are doing.
Correct. So that's a key point to know. So we're going the reverse order. So Vishesh, a question for you. You see, you are investing, you're putting money into, and you're betting on people. You actually used that word, right? Now, all the skills that both you and Kunal identified, you may not find, but you may find the technology promising, or you may find something else good enough. What do you bet on? Are you betting that the craft or the art can be learnt? What are you betting on?
I think you're really investing in people. Actually, we'll skip back and take that word bet out, because you're really investing in people. You're investing in their capability, their vision, and their ability to build something very meaningful. Even closer? Okay. Yeah, I think you need to really. We're investing in people. I mean, as much as all the frameworks are there in E-plane for the big plane, there are regulatory hurdles. The policy is not absolute. At least at the time when we invested. What did we invest? We invested in the vision that Dr. Satya has. I still believe that if a plane has to fly in the Indian soil, it's going to be his. Right? That's sometimes you have to imbibe that, and that comes with spending time and understanding their vision, understanding their capabilities to build a business around it. So I think it's hard to put any other answer there other than saying we're investing in people.
I'm just pushing you on that. Bear with me on this. Clearly, you bet on people at a very early stage because you believe they have to make it happen, something which has not happened, something they have not done before. What are you seeing, or what are you looking for in those people to say that your bet is actually right?
Actually,
what gives you that confidence?
I think a bunch of things. One is just their own understanding of the problem that they're trying to solve for, right? And the understanding, I know we spoke a lot about customers, but just understanding customers and not knowing what to build and how to build is still living with a problem unsolved. So I think you essentially want someone or a group of people who are multifaceted enough to understand how to build the tech, understand what customers want, and go through that journey. And 8 out of 10 times we're investing in first-time entrepreneurs. The Indian startup ecosystem is still young. You're not always going to find a repeat entrepreneur. So they're not always going to know about institutional building. They're not always going to know about hiring. But these are things that you also have to give them a chance. I mean, I didn't start my life knowing how to invest in startups. It's been 18 years and I'm still learning. So it's very unfair to look at a founder with 8-9 months of a vision and say, you got to know everything. So sometimes it's about giving them also a chance to figure it out and being patient alongside that journey with some guardrails, of course, and then see how it plays out.
What I take away from that you're probably not saying, and I'm articulating, is they're judging the learnability and the willingness to.
Actually, you're judging the agility.
The agility and the learning.
Yeah, that's the all-encompassing word.
Okay.
Because you got to learn, you got to adapt, and you got to move.
Okay.
You have only so much time, so much money, and the world's also moving. So how do you be relevant in all of this?
Great answer. Satya, going back to you, the question, I'm going to ask it in 2 sentences. How do you what is your recommendation to create more Satyas in academic campuses? In the sense, you've taken the extreme step of even taking a sabbatical and going off. Now that's unlikely to happen. That's not the beaten path. But we need Dronacharyas, right? What is a systematic way, if it's possible, to for an institution to create or nurture such faculty who are able to, let's say, create or foment or nurture entrepreneurship? What's missing? What needs to be done?
I'm going to disappoint you. This is a problem statement that I have not been bothered about at all.
Out of syllabus question, but please attempt.
Yeah, I know. Right. So, what the problem statement that I'm actually worried about is how to beat congestion with flying in cities. That's what I'm worried about. Right. So I'm not worried about how to make more Satyas. That's a different problem statement. That is for maybe some other time, as far as I can tell. But the contours of this is in the Indian academic system, particularly in the IITs, which are government run. To the extent I know, directors or boards of governors or any of those people can probably set directions largely to the students and faculty and staff or whatever it is, who are all the stakeholders. but it's very difficult to actually mandate anything with the kind of academic freedom that we enjoy. So there used to be these two paradigms that even during Professor Anand's time that we used to contrast between MIT being an idea factory and Caltech being a magic garden. And at that time, I think people were asking me, even back then when I was just an assistant professor, what would as I was actually transitioning to becoming an associate professor, they would ask me, what is it that I would actually tell younger faculty, how would I mentor them and all those things? And my answer was, well, I will do what I am doing. And if somebody is actually inspired to follow me, let them follow. We are just setting up a magic garden. There is no idea factory around here, right? Now, that said, look at IIT Madras. It's actually doing very well, right? You don't need to have exactly like Satya Chakravarti's all the time going on sabbaticals. In fact, if all of them actually went on sabbaticals, who will teach? They are actually doing their jobs, right? So we need faculty to be doing what they're doing. And despite that, you actually see about 100+ faculty who are involved in startups. We are actually the best in the country and actually at par with the world. What's wrong with us? Is this fine? We are perfectly doing fine. We don't need to do anything more.
Okay, my question was probably to look at the other 4,000 institutions. Maybe, one or two IIT Madras, IISc, IIT Bombay, they are exceptions.
That's a different story. That's a different story. Thanks for prodding me on that, right? I have actually personally been to a lot of these institutions, and they do ask me, I think the culture is very different. They don't have something called an academic freedom, right? Give people academic freedom. Academic freedom is actually something, I'll tell you what academic freedom is, right? At the bare minimum, we are supposed to teach 3 hours a week, and we are allowed to go home and take rest. Okay, I'll just put it very bluntly, all right? But you will see how many faculty really slogging, because we actually create something called peer pressure. And peer pressure is actually what sustains in the academic world. And it actually goes down, percolates down to the student level too, right? Each of us should actually be competing to be peerless, right? And that kind of, pursuit of excellence is something that academic freedom at the bottom line, which says you can do whatever you want, including not doing anything, is actually super important, right? That gives you, that's a bedrock of independence that tells you it's okay if like a few people did not do much, but let's all do other, more things. I don't see that happening with those 4,000 institutions. Go, stare in the eyes of those principals or directors or whatever it is, ask them the question, how much academic freedom do you give your faculty?
Academic freedom is 3 hours of lecture and do whatever you want for the rest of the time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And, okay. So let me ask that question to, Kunal, and, you deal as an incubator.
I mean, whatever you want that is reasonable, that is technical.
Point taken. So to Kunal, you deal with academic institutions, you deal with startups that come out of IIT Madras and many other places. What do you see? I mean, academic freedom is obviously not what you're bothered about, but you see a lot of other processes and ventures. What is missing that you would like as an incubator manager to get deep tech startups? What's missing? And again, don't look at IITs and, don't look at IIT Madras, Bombay, Delhi and all that. Look at the larger country.
So I think maybe the easiest way to look at the problem is not necessarily looking at it from an institution standpoint, but look at it from a city standpoint or a certain town standpoint, because while we may have the benefit of having interdisciplinary stuff happening here, which can make the design and the metallurgy guys come together and create the chair, but many of the other cities might not. And I'm going back to something very interesting that once Paul Graham, who's the founder of Y Combinator, once wrote, that what does it take to build the future Silicon Valley? There are practically 3 or 4 things that go into building a Silicon Valley from his standpoint, and this is an old essay from maybe 15 or 18 years back. He says, you need a lot of geeks, which is the folks sitting in the university, quite a lot of people here. You need a lot of believers, which is the investors out there, a lot of HNIs, in that context, pretty important.
Who have money to lose.
Who have the money to lose, who are willing to experiment, who are willing to be the early adopters, either as a customer or an investor, becomes a very important second element to have. And the third and most important element to have is the culture. What has happened tremendously well, I feel, in the context of IIT Madras is the cultural evolution that has happened in the last maybe decade and a half or 20 odd years, where it has become okay to fail. It has become okay to take the risk. It has become okay to think out of the box and do something which has not been attempted before. If we can bring, and we look around most of the cities, there will be SMEs who are willing to do the investments. There would be enough top class institutions sitting. What may be missing is the culture. So if the cultural revolution that has happened at IIT Madras can somehow spread across the country, and maybe GDC is already doing it. We were during the tea talking about how the IIT Madras mafia is now going into different IITs and becoming faculty there and becoming entrepreneurs. This mafia will very quickly spread. But I feel that's the easiest way to really bring about the cultural change in the country.
Okay, so we mafias, all right. Thank you. Now, I'm again going to bounce this question to you, Vishesh. You said you bet on people, and I can clearly see if you're writing the first institutional check for a very, nascent embryonic sector and venture, you have to take a bet on the people. What can we do to create these people? What can GDC do or IIT do or any institute do? What would you like that we can help you create a funnel for this kind of thing? Is it possible at all?
I think it's absolutely possible. And I think over tea, we were chatting about the fact that GDC is actually at the grassroots of just putting frameworks for founders to think about whether they should be building a company and whether this is a problem worth solving. It was very refreshing to even note that even some of your startup presentations, I think they had one where one of the founders left. They're very calm and composed about it. They communicated it. None of the pitches actually asked for money. It was great to be here. Right? I think entrepreneurship is a journey. Fundraising is a one-time event, 5-time event, whatever. Few
It's a
events.
pit stop.
It's a pit stop at best. And therefore, I think giving individuals frameworks to think about building a company for themselves, institutionalizing it for the long, is a great approach to have. As against thinking of what is it going to get you to the first dollar, how do you raise the first round, keeping all of that aside, just distilling all of that away, to saying, firstly, entrepreneurship is an extremely painful journey, right? And we often talk about it on the inside. It's not spoken about enough outside. But it's a very long and painful journey. People have to first make sure that they have to do this. And to the extent they can get the right frameworks and tools to think about it, at least they're making a very informed decision. After you made the decision, you ride through the journey, right? That's fine. It's got its ups and downs. But as long as you're going through a program or a set of frameworks that allows you to think about really, is this something you want to do for the next 10, 15 years of your life? I think it's extremely valuable for the ecosystem. It's a blessing to the ecosystem. It's a different matter, number of startups that come to me, that's a byproduct. I think it allows people to really think about why they're building, what they're building, and should they be building. And everything else is a byproduct of answering some of those questions.
Great answer. Satya, going back to you, academic freedom, I think, is a policy decision. It's not, it is what we have, right? Academic freedom has many, I guess people will want to build accountability. So, it'll happen when it happens. But given what we have, right, what do you think we can do in terms of top 2 or 3 processes or initiatives or practices? I'm still at a faculty and research level that can get more from lab to market. Merely throwing more patents and stuff at the market is one way to fatten the pipeline, but that's like a brute force approach. Are you there, Satya? You're frozen. Okay, you're thinking hard. All right.
I'm there.
So how do we change the process for that? Yeah.
So in my view, I think in my view, you should probably attack the PhD students. So typically, undergrads are the ones that are more risk taking, but they have to, they typically kind of go through like YouTube for learning things and put things together, try fast and fail, not really go back to first principles and all that stuff. But I think first principles based product development actually can be done by the PhD students, but typically PhD students are risk averse. They are for quick, remuneration, wanting to have jobs that will pay them every month, paycheck to paycheck, that kind of thing. So is there a way by which you can select PhD students who will in turn pull their faculty advice, their guide, right, into the mix? Because guides are actually guides for the faculty who are even more reluctant. In fact, most faculty, I also did not know what is meant by equity. I had no idea what that meant. Okay, and I don't, and guys like Vishesh actually use phrases like skin in the game. I'm like, okay, I have skin. What is the game? I have no idea. I mean, completely, right? So you go tell a faculty that we will dangle a carrot of about 10% or 15% or even 30%, right, in the company. Why don't they actually join us? They are like, those are numbers to me. I mean, it just doesn't make, it just doesn't mean anything to any of them. Right, so it's very hard to go try to brainwash faculty and all that stuff. I mean, first of all, you have to acknowledge that they have brains, right? But don't try to wash it. Okay, try to target maybe the PhD students and then get them to drag their guides into the mix. I would think that could actually be much more effective when compared to trying to take the bull by the horns.
I'm going to ask a question that based on what Ramesh actually said, or I don't know whether Professor Kamakoti said that, maybe both of them said it. See, students, particularly undergrad students, they're in their early 20s, they've not seen the world. And most of them, even in this institute, and I'm sure for most institutes in India, they're not trained for entrepreneurship. It's just exciting, glamorous, nice thing to show that I'm an entrepreneur. At least for most of them. So to expect them to all become job creators, I mean, it seems wrong by design, right? And you're not an expert after your undergrad education. I want each of you to answer on this from different perspectives. It's very unnatural to expect somebody going through 4 years of engineering and, you do free courses, you go and do art, you go and do free thinking, whatever else, psychology, and you don't become an expert even in your core discipline. Only 1/3 of your courses are probably there, right? So therefore, undergrad students, except for those who are probably privileged or come from family backgrounds or have it naturally with them, that cannot be more than 0.5%, I would think, right? Even statistically, postgraduates and PhDs, in contrast to what you were saying, they are there to learn more about the subject, and PhDs are probably not entrepreneurs by design again. They're trying to become academics, for God's sake.
Correct.
So how do we, create entrepreneurial thinking on campuses? Which pond do we fish in by design? We should not be pushing the wrong people again in the wrong buckets.
Correct.
So I start with Satya and then we can go around the table.
Yeah. So let's just face it, right? So a lot of things are actually wrong about academic institutions. Right. So, for example, faculty members are actually not necessarily, selected for any teaching training that they've gone through. They are selected actually for the research that they do, the publications that they have had, the projects that they have worked on, the potential projects that they will work on, the amount of funding that they can actually get. Are they sunrise sectors, right? Are they actually open to diversification? All of these things. And then they also ask the question, okay, how many core courses can we teach to undergrads? Because it's kind of like a chore that we have to do, right? So there are lots of metrics on which the person who is selected as a faculty has not got any training before. Okay. So, and then we still select them. This is not just an IIT Madras problem. It's not an Indian problem. There is a world over problem, right? So in fact, whatever applies to IIT Madras actually applies to the world. It's not as if like IIT Madras is doing anything different, right? We are actually we are following the best practice in the world. The only question is that can we do better than the rest of the world? That's the only thing that we have to think about. So after coming here, we have actually something called Teaching Learning Center. There are some faculty who are interested in teaching and so on. There are other faculty who actually discourage them from, showing more interest in teaching, right? So all of these things happen. So even the faculty are not actually the best teachers. Then you are talking about undergrads who actually are, not really learning entrepreneurship. I don't even know what undergrads learn at all in the first place. Forget about no core course experience, right? Nothing, practically nothing. The only thing that actually goes, right? So I'm not talking about IIT Madras. I'm talking about the entire world. Okay, I dare this. So what happens is that they see what is actually good about IIT Madras, for example, right, is the campus. It essentially gets a bunch of intelligent people together, create that peer pressure, and hopefully constructively, right, and get them to engage in something very creative. That's all, right? After all of these things, I mean, I really shed tears that my students who are actually doing Avishkar Hyperloop, okay, and they are putting together hardware that does not exist in the world. It's not like they're actually making a car that is better than an existing car, or Hyperloop does not exist. And then these guys are actually creating something completely out of, the blue. And after spending 2-3 years really sweating it out, the nights and days and all that stuff, they go to join McKinsey, right? Tell whoever is sitting in front of
you have a McKinsey partner here.
Right. So is that okay? Okay, fine. The question is that guy actually trained for McKinsey? No. Right. So none of these things is right at all. I'm saying, and in spite of it, the system works. So you want to actually try to optimize this, or like super optimize the system. I have no idea whether you're going the right path. If you just let it the way it is and then flourish more and more, like scale it and all that stuff, maybe that's the right thing to do, in my view.
Chaos theory is what you are saying.
Yeah.
All right, great. So Kunal, what do you think? You got the question right? Where do we look for? Because the writing on the wall seems to be there are not enough jobs. We need to be job creators. But I think we can't have so many job creators what do we need to change?
So I do feel students across the world have been job creators. I mean, there are enough number of companies, even in the Indian context, that have gone on to become unicorns and really large, that have been created by student entrepreneurs or early or recent graduates. So I would say undergrad students are a fertile ground to actually be creating many of these companies. But at the same time, deep tech can be a slightly different ball game. It requires a much deeper understanding of the problem and the customer. And I feel that there is an opportunity for us to, especially sitting at IIT Madras, there is an opportunity to be creating a new set of technology commercialization, call them students, call them entrepreneurs in residence, call them market disruptors. I mean, this could be people my vintage, people who've been in the industry for 15, 20 odd years, who understand a particular market really well. Of course, the problem with that is very often with experience comes your disbelief in making, or your own or belief in yourself reduces. You start seeing a lot of risk. The benefit of having students is they think anything can happen. That's where I like the students pursuing many of these opportunities. But a mix of this, someone bringing a lot of experience into the group, partnering with the researchers, partnering with the students, can we create ventures of this nature happen coming out of IIT Madras? And I know that there have been attempts to create the MSc in Entrepreneurship program. Can you bring more practitioners here within IIT Madras by the dozens and bring them into the research laboratories and spin some of these off? I think that would become the playbook for producing many more e-planes and Agni-Cools out of this ecosystem.
Great points. And Vishesh, any thoughts on this?
I'm just going to take a slightly different stab. I think job creation is a thought process. You don't necessarily have to start a company right out of college and do something. So I think it's about being a mindset of saying that I should create something that can create jobs and create value, as against saying, what do I do in the mix of things to make a living? So I think that's the broader framework to operate within. The other point on really where do you want to harness double click. I think there's the founder of NVIDIA has this very famous saying that if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be able to withstand a lot of suffering.
Okay.
If you're very thin on that line, you're going to have a very tough time. So if I had to wear that lens and look at it, I'm going to want to lean towards the folks that have spent more time in the institute, breaking their back, trying to find something that nobody else has found. So I have a leaning towards looking at more the MTech and the PhD students, because they're essentially letting go of the lost time of being in some great company, making all the money that they can to actually invest in a particular direction to build something. So, of course, all of this is from the lens of a deep tech investor wanting to invest in deep tech companies, wanting to look for founder market fit, all of that in. I would really invest my time with those that are willing to suffer more. Because I think it takes a lot of suffering to build a company. It's not a joke.
Great answers. I think all three speakers have given good insights. Satya says there's enough fertile ground here to, for good talent to surface up, good risk takers to come, and may the churn throw up the winners. I hear Kunal says there's a scope for getting it blended. You can get people who have moved out, learned something in the world, blend that here, and you have a greater chance. And I think what Vishesh, I hear him saying is, there are certain sects of students, certain groups of students, MTech and PhDs in his case, who have sacrificed something to learn their craft better. And from a deep tech perspective, I think there's learning in every one of these. I'm mindful of time. I'm going to ask one question to everyone. It's a bit of a selfish question, and you don't have to be polite. I'm doing my customer discovery for GDC. Okay? Satya, you've been a repeat offender at GDC, right? And you've come multiple times and still suffered us. But what is it that we can do better? You've done several ventures even outside of GDC, and you've seen several other faculty and all of that. As a faculty member, what can we do better, or what should we be doing more than we are not doing today as GDC to help academics create world-beating startups?
Yeah, so GDC starts at the ideation stage. In fact, you don't want the GDC teams to have had a product so that they freeze their thoughts around it and all that stuff. You are actually looking at customer discovery on what problems for the customer that you want to solve, and the BMC, the PMF, all of those kinds of stuff that you go through. And therefore, it's possible that most of the teams that actually come to you have not really incorporated a company, or maybe they've just about incorporated a company. They're actually at the very, very, the embryonic stage of where they are. What GDC could do, and I think you have a bunch of other programs. I don't know exactly what they are. I'm actually a huge fan of the I-NCUBATE program. And I repeatedly keep offering that to be taken by lots of entrepreneurs that come to me at that stage. But what about statistics? So are you tracking them from the first cohort to, I think now you must be some 30 plus cohorts, right? And where are they? And so go discover your customers who are the GDC the I-NCUBATE participants, and then track them. Now you actually have enough data about some literally thousands of people, right? What have their pain points been at different parts of the journey? And how is it possible for you to actually do follow-ups to address those much better in a data-driven manner, right? You may have, so the way I-NCUBATE started is to actually pattern it after the NSF ICO program and so on. You may have other programs that have these kinds of templates, but even in spite, I don't know if you have other ways by which you have collected data from all of these guys to find out what is the pain point that they have, and so that you will actually be able to offer a very robust program the next cohort and the next cohort and the next cohort. Yeah.
I hear you. We need better alumni relations. Thank you. Yes, Kunal, as somebody who's run incubator and a fund and, very innovatively, what do you think? And you probably dealt with some of our, both you and Vishesh have dealt. So the same question to both of you. What do you think we could do that could help incubators and people like you better?
I think the most obvious thing that you guys need to do is market yourselves even more, which is not just in the context of the researchers, but I feel that what you guys are offering here is fundamental to how the learning of any student ought to happen going forward, whereas they need to become problem-centric, they need to become customer-centric. I feel that program like I-NCUBATE should become almost a 101 of engineering school or a business school, where customer centricity is ingrained in them. So you should figure a way out to really make it a part of the curriculum. But equally importantly, I feel that going forward, a lot more companies are going to be deep tech. While consumer-centric businesses that have happened over the last decade or so come naturally to most of us as consumers. I mean, I have a need to get something in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and therefore the idea will come naturally to me. But in the deep tech area, very few people will have an understanding of what these opportunities are. If you have to widen this base, from the 100 odd people who may understand a given area, if you have to expand it to 1,000 odd people, can you actually work more closely with the industry and say that, hey, we'll try bringing in 100 people every year for this specific industry who will go around the industry trying to identify what problems exist, what needs exist for the customer. So this is not a solution looking for a problem. This is a set of people, whether it is students, whether it is academics. I mean, as someone pointed out, put aside whatever your solutions or invention is and really become problem and customer centric. If we can do more of that, automatically I think it will become a higher throughput model. Currently, I feel that maybe the starting point here is someone ought to have an idea or a desire to be a startup.
For the I-NCUBATE program, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, can you increase the throughput in some ways?
Okay, thank you. Vishesh?
Yeah, I think the increasing the throughput is definitely, and it's less so from GDC, more so because I think most entrepreneurs need this framework to think through. So as many of them that can actually come into this program and the visibility of the program to the larger community, I think that's the one thing that I would think would make a difference.
Thank you. I cannot thank my co-speakers enough for the great insights of wisdom. So join me in thanking Satya online, Kunal and Vishesh here for a great panel and for being such. And thank you all for being very patient audience. I think we will give you a good lunch. Thank you very much.
So, we'll not hold you too long between you and lunch. Just bear with us for another couple of minutes. We do have a small way of expressing our gratitude to the panelists. I request Professor Krishnan Balasubramanian to hand over our sense of gratitude in the form of a book.
The GDC practice is to torment our speakers further by making them read books, and when they come, they have to present a summary of what they have learned.
Satya will virtually give a book to you. Probably you can collect it subsequently back in the campus. We really had a very engaging conversations, and tribute to the speakers that you all stayed back and despite feeling hungry. It's really amazing to see that. We had a great day's session so far. We had an excellent presentation by teams, followed by talk by Director Kamakoti as well as Ramesh Mangaleshwaran, and then the engaging panel here. On the whole, it's been an enriching experience for me to be a part of this event today. Thank you once again for your patience and participation. The lunch is served in the hall adjoining over here. Please take some time off post lunch to visit the stalls and engage the startup teams. Thank you once again. Thank you.